In a small town, the birth of the Johnsons' baby became the talk of the neighborhood when the child emerged with a surprising and unusual skin color. Shocked and bewildered, Mr. Johnson insisted on a DNA test, unable to comprehend the unexpected turn of events. However, when the doctor handed over the results, even he found himself at a loss for words. As the Johnsons awaited the doctor's verdict, they were struck by a sudden urgency as they witnessed him hurriedly reaching for the phone, dialing 911 with a grave expression etched on his face. When the Johnsons' baby was born, rumors quickly spread like fire through the small town of Birkin. The baby, born with an unusually dark skin color, surprised everyone. Mr. Terry Johnson, flabbergasted and worried, demanded a DNA test on a routine check a week after the birth of the baby. Dr. Harris reluctantly agreed, while Mrs. Lily Johnson tried to remain calm as she held her newborn baby close. A couple of days passed, and the results finally came in. Dr. Harris, who was usually a calm and composed man, seemed uncharacteristically anxious as he opened the envelope. Terry's eyes were fixed firmly on the doctor's face, waiting for answers. Lily felt a knot tighten in her stomach, and the room was filled with an uncomfortable silence. The doctor's hands trembled slightly as he read the results. After what felt like forever, he looked up, his expression unreadable. "I'll need to make a call," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Confusion and worry etched deeper into the Johnsons' faces as they finally looked at each other. The doctor stepped out without another word, leaving the couple in suspense. Minutes felt like hours as they waited. They could hear Dr. Harris's urgent voice through the thin walls, but they couldn't make out his words. Lily glanced at her husband, tears welling up in her eyes. After some internal battle, he reached out and squeezed her hand, trying to offer some comfort. The baby, oblivious to the tension, gurgled softly in her mother's arms. The doctor returned after a while, his face pale and eyes wide with concern. "I'm sorry, but I had to call for assistance," he said as he sat back down, his voice strained. Terry stood up, his face flushed with frustration. "What did the results say?" he demanded. The doctor took a deep breath, clearly struggling with his words. "The results? Well, they're highly unusual," Dr. Harris finally managed to say. Lily felt her knees go weak, and she sank back further into her chair. "What does that mean?" she asked, her voice barely audible. The doctor looked at the baby, then back at the parents. "We can't know for sure yet. We need to conduct further tests," he said. The sound of sirens broke the heavy silence in the room. Terry's frustrated anger was quickly replaced by fear as two paramedics entered the room. "What's going on?" he shouted. But the doctor remained silent. Lily held her baby tighter to her chest, fear gripping her heart. The paramedics exchanged a look of concern. "We're here to take your daughter for further medical evaluation, ma'am," one of the paramedics explained gently, reaching for the baby in Lily's arms. Lily shook her head, tears streaming down her face as she moved out of the paramedic's reach. "No, you can't take her!" she cried. Terry stepped forward, blocking their path towards his wife. "We need answers first," he demanded. Dr. Harris stepped in, his expression softening. "I understand this is difficult," he said, "but it's of utmost importance that we understand the full scope of what's going on." He nodded to the paramedics, who stood at the ready, but waited respectfully. Lily, torn between fear and trust, reluctantly handed over her baby. As the paramedics left, Terry and Lily were overwhelmed with helplessness and worry. Dr. Harris sat back down with them, his demeanor serious but compassionate. "We'll do everything we can to find out what's happening," he assured them. Terry clenched his fists, struggling to keep his emotions in check. They never would have expected their lives would take such a turn. Dr. Harris took a deep breath, trying to gather his thoughts. "Terry, Lily, the results are very unusual," he began. "We need to do more tests to understand what's going on." His eyes met theirs, filled with concern. "Your daughter's health might depend on this," he added softly, urging them to consider further evaluation seriously. Dr. Harris stood up, glancing towards the door. "I've already called for paramedics," he said. "They will take your daughter to a specialist clinic. It's important that we do these advanced tests as soon as possible." Terry clenched his jaw, while Lily hugged their baby tighter, both feeling the weight of the doctor's words. Dr. Harris handed Terry a slip of paper. "This is the address of the clinic," he explained. "They have the best facilities for the tests we need." Terry took the paper, staring at it blankly. Lily glanced at it, her mind racing. "You need to stay there for a few days," the doctor added, his voice steady but kind. Seeing the fear in their eyes, Dr. Harris softened his tone. "You can stay with her at the clinic," he reassured them. "They have accommodations for parents." Lily nodded, wiping away a tear. "We'll be there every step of the way," he promised. Terry squeezed Lily's hand, trying to muster some strength. "We just want her to be okay," Lily whispered. The sound of sirens grew louder outside. Terry and Lily exchanged a heavy glance, their hearts aching. They packed a small bag with essentials, their movements mechanical. The paramedics knocked, ready to take their daughter. "We'll be right behind you," Terry told them. With a final deep breath, they prepared to leave, their minds reeling from the rapid turn of events. Terry and Lily left Dr. Harris's office in a daze. The world outside felt strangely distant, the weight of the unexpected news pressing heavily on their minds. They didn't say a word, the silence between them thick and suffocating. The gravity of their situation seemed too immense to process, leaving them both feeling lost and numb. They got into the car, and Terry started the engine without a word. The drive home was silent, each of them lost in their thoughts. The usual hum of the engine felt louder, filling the space where their voices should be. The seriousness of their baby's condition weighed heavily on their hearts, making the short trip feel interminably long. Once they got home, Terry and Lily moved quickly, packing essentials for their stay at the clinic. Clothes, toiletries, and baby items were thrown into bags in a hurried, panicked manner. Their focus was solely on getting to the clinic as quickly as possible. The house, usually a place of comfort, now felt like a storm had passed through it. Terry noticed the silent tears streaming down Lily's face but didn't reach out to comfort her. The tension between them, unspoken and unresolved, created a rift that neither knew how to bridge. They were both overwhelmed, their emotions raw, and their nerves frayed. Despite the love they had for each other, the strain was palpable. Despite their distress, Terry and Lily worked together efficiently. They moved with a shared purpose, driven by their concern for their daughter. Bags were zipped up, shoes were put on, and final checks were made.
Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story.
They didn't need to speak. Their mutual worry for their baby united them in their task. They were ready to face whatever came next. With multiple bags in tow, Terry and Lily walked to their car, the silence between them heavy and tense. The weight of the situation hung over them, making each step feel laborious. They loaded the bags into the trunk without speaking, each lost in their thoughts. The only sounds were the soft clinks of zippers and the distant hum of the neighborhood. Lily called Terry's name softly as they double-checked the house. "Did we get everything?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. Terry nodded, scanning the rooms one last time. They ensured the windows were closed and the doors were locked. The familiarity of their home felt oddly foreign, a stark contrast to the uncertainty they were heading into. Terry's stress and sadness were evident in his furrowed brow and tense shoulders, but when he looked at Lily's tired, worried face, his eyes softened. He saw the same fear and determination in her eyes that he felt. Despite everything, they were in this together. He reached out, a silent promise of support and understanding. They shared a tender moment, embracing in the living room. The warmth of the hug was a brief respite from their worries. Their recent arguments were momentarily forgotten, replaced by a deep, shared concern for their daughter. The embrace conveyed what words couldn't: love, fear, and hope. For a few precious seconds, they found solace in each other's arms. With renewed determination, they locked up the house and headed to the car. The brief moment of connection had given them strength. Terry locked the front door, double-checking it before turning to Lily. "Ready?" he asked, his voice steady. She nodded, holding their bags tightly. They were prepared to face whatever lay ahead at the clinic. Terry gently kissed Lily's forehead after their embrace, signaling a tentative truce between them. The soft kiss spoke volumes, a quiet apology, and a promise to face the challenges together. Lily closed her eyes, feeling a small sense of relief. They both knew that their primary focus had to be their daughter, and this moment of peace was a step forward. Hand in hand, they walked to the car, united by their shared concern for their daughter's well-being. The touch brought a sense of solidarity, reminding them they were in this together. They loaded the last of their bags into the trunk, their movements synchronized by their mutual worry. The silence was now more comforting than tense. During the drive, Lily tried to reassure Terry of her faithfulness. "Terry, she's our daughter, I swear," she said softly, her voice filled with emotion. Terry glanced at her, his grip on the steering wheel tightening. "I know, Lily," he replied, though uncertainty still lingered in his tone. The road ahead seemed endless, much like their concerns. Terry, still strained but calmer, reached over and held Lily's hand. "Let's wait for the doctor's final word," he said, trying to offer some comfort. Lily nodded, squeezing his hand in response. The gesture was small, but it helped bridge the gap between them. They both knew they needed to be strong, for their daughter and each other. They continued their journey, their focus shifting to supporting each other through the upcoming challenges. The tension in the car eased slightly as they talked about their hopes for their daughter's recovery. Every mile brought them closer to the clinic and closer to understanding what lay ahead. They knew the road would be tough, but they were ready to face it together. After an hour's drive, Terry parked the car on the gravel driveway of the remote clinic. The building loomed ahead, its stark white exterior contrasting with the surrounding greenery. Terry turned off the engine, and they sat in silence for a moment, gathering their courage. "We're here," he finally said, his voice steady. Lily nodded, clutching her purse tightly. They walked up to the clinic's imposing doors, feeling a mix of hope and anxiety about the unknown. The path was lined with well-kept bushes, the air crisp and clean. "This place looks nice," Lily murmured, trying to find some comfort in the surroundings. A receptionist greeted them warmly, recognizing them as the Johnsons. "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson," she said with a reassuring smile. "We've been expecting you." She handed over a clipboard with the necessary paperwork. "Please fill these out and we'll get you settled in," she added. Terry and Lily exchanged a glance, feeling a bit more at ease. Terry and Lily filled out the forms, their hands shaking slightly with worry and anticipation. The questions seemed endless, each one a reminder of their situation. "Are we almost done?" Lily whispered, her pen hovering over the paper. Terry nodded, filling in the last blank. The weight of the paperwork mirrored the weight on their hearts. The receptionist reassured them with a smile. "Thank you," she said, taking the completed forms. "We'll take you to your daughter once everything is processed." Her calm demeanor helped ease some of their tension. "Please wait here for a moment," she added, gesturing to a set of chairs. Terry and Lily sat down, their hearts pounding with anticipation. With the paperwork done, Terry and Lily handed it back and requested to see their daughter immediately. "Can we see her now?" Terry asked, his voice steady but urgent. The receptionist nodded, understanding their anxiety. "Of course, follow me," she said, standing up. They followed closely, eager and apprehensive to be reunited with their baby. The receptionist led them through winding hallways and up several flights of stairs, chatting about the clinic. "We've got excellent staff and state-of-the-art facilities," she said cheerfully. Terry and Lily tried to listen, but their minds were focused on their daughter. Each turn and step brought them closer to her, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Her cheerful tone contrasted sharply with the Johnsons' growing unease as they approached their destination. The bright lights and sterile environment felt cold and unwelcoming. Lily glanced at Terry, her eyes reflecting her worry. "We're almost there," the receptionist said brightly, oblivious to their mounting anxiety. They continued walking, feeling a mix of hope and dread. Finally, they reached a plain, white door. The receptionist turned to them with a bright smile. "Here we are," she announced, her voice filled with warmth. She knocked lightly before opening the door. Terry and Lily exchanged a glance, their hearts racing. The moment they'd been waiting for was just on the other side of that door. Despite her outward cheerfulness, the receptionist's eyes held a hint of hidden concern, adding to their anxiety. "She's right inside," she said softly, her tone more serious. Terry and Lily stepped forward, their hands tightly clasped. The subtle change in the receptionist's demeanor didn't go unnoticed, and their worry deepened as they prepared to see their daughter. The receptionist cautioned Terry and Lily about their daughter's appearance due to ongoing tests. "She might look different because of the medical equipment," she said gently. "Please, don't be alarmed." Terry nodded, squeezing Lily's hand reassuringly. They braced themselves for what they might see, their hearts heavy with a mix of fear and hope. Relieved to know Dr. Harris was present, they knocked on the door, which opened to his sad smile. "Come in," he said softly, his eyes reflecting the weight of the situation. Seeing a familiar face brought them a small measure of comfort. They stepped inside, anxious to finally see their daughter again. Inside the room, they saw their daughter hooked up to various medical devices, shocking Lily to the core. Tubes and monitors surrounded the tiny baby, who looked so fragile amidst the machinery. Lily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Terry's grip tightened on her arm, both of them struggling to process the overwhelming sight. Overcome with emotion, Lily almost collapsed, but Terry quickly supported her, keeping her upright. "It's okay. I've got you," he whispered, his voice steady despite his own fear. She leaned into him, drawing strength from his presence. They stood there, united in their shock and love for their daughter, determined to be strong. Dr. Harris beckoned them further inside, his demeanor serious yet compassionate as he addressed their fears. "I know this is hard to see," he began, "but these tests are crucial." His voice was calm and reassuring. "We're doing everything we can to understand and help your daughter." Terry and Lily nodded, their trust in him unwavering. Terry guided Lily to a chair beside their daughter's bed, gently encouraging her to sit down. "Take a seat, honey," he murmured, his hand steadying her. Lily sat down, her eyes never leaving their baby. The room was filled with the soft beeps of monitors, a stark reminder of the gravity of the situation. Lily, voice trembling, asked if she could hold her baby, her eyes pleading with Dr. Harris. "Please, can I hold her?" she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. Dr. Harris hesitated, understanding the depth of her need. Terry stood by, his hand on Lily's shoulder, waiting for the doctor's response. After a tense moment, Dr. Harris carefully lifted the baby and placed her in Lily's arms. "Be very gentle," he advised, his voice soft. Lily's hands shook slightly as she cradled her daughter. The baby's warmth and presence brought a rush of emotions, overwhelming and bittersweet. Terry watched, his heart aching with love and worry. Lily cradled her daughter, tears streaming down her face as she lovingly stroked the baby's cheek. "Hi, sweet girl," she whispered, her voice breaking. The baby stirred slightly, her tiny face peaceful. Terry moved closer, placing a comforting hand on Lily's back. The room felt like a fragile bubble of love and pain. Determined to protect his family, Terry requested a private conversation with Dr. Harris in the hallway. "Can we talk outside?" he asked, his tone firm. Dr. Harris nodded, understanding the urgency in Terry's eyes. Lily looked up, her expression a mix of gratitude and anxiety. Terry squeezed her shoulder before following the doctor out. Terry demanded answers from Dr. Harris, threatening legal action if the doctor withheld information. "I need to know everything right now," he said, his voice low and intense. "If you keep anything from us, I'll take legal action." Dr. Harris looked taken aback but nodded, understanding the urgency and fear in Terry's eyes. Dr. Harris, visibly shaken, agreed to explain the situation, involving a clinic expert for clarity. "All right, I'll tell you everything," he said, his voice unsteady. "I'll bring in Dr. Peterson, our expert." He turned to call for the specialist, his hands trembling slightly. Terry crossed his arms, waiting impatiently, the tension in the air thick and palpable. Terry interrupted, confirming the baby's paternity. "Is she really my daughter?" he asked bluntly. Dr. Harris nodded without hesitation. "Yes, Terry, she is your daughter. The DNA test confirmed it." Terry felt a brief wave of relief, but his main concern remained. He took a deep breath, ready to address the more pressing issue. Surprised by the response, Terry clarified his concern about their daughter's health. "Then what's wrong with her?" he asked, his voice cracking. "Why does she need all these tests?" Dr. Harris opened his mouth to respond, but was interrupted by the arrival of another doctor. Terry turned, his anxiety mounting with each passing second. Before Dr. Harris could reply, they were approached by Dr. Jane Peterson, who introduced herself. "I'm Dr. Peterson," she said, extending her hand. Terry shook it, feeling a mix of hope and dread. Her presence brought a sense of authority and clarity. "Let's go inside and discuss your daughter's test results," she suggested, her tone professional yet kind. Dr. Peterson shook Terry's hand and invited him back inside to discuss their daughter's test results. "Let's go back in," she said, her voice calm and professional. Terry nodded, feeling a slight sense of relief at her composed demeanor. They walked back to the room where Lily waited, anxious to hear what the doctors had to say. Terry rejoined Lily in the room, both doctors standing before them, ready to explain the findings. "Lily, this is Dr. Peterson," Terry said, his voice steady. Lily looked up, her eyes wide with worry. Dr. Peterson gave a reassuring nod. "We're here to help you understand what's going on," she said, taking a seat beside them. Dr. Peterson introduced herself to Lily and expressed her empathy for their stressful situation. "I'm Dr. Peterson, and I can't imagine how difficult this is for you," she said kindly. "We're going to go through everything together." Lily nodded, appreciating the empathy. Terry squeezed her hand, both of them bracing for the explanation. Noticing their confusion, Dr. Peterson questioned Dr. Harris, who admitted he wanted confirmation first. "Dr. Harris, why weren't they informed sooner?" she asked. Dr. Harris sighed. "I wanted to be sure before causing unnecessary panic," he explained. Terry and Lily exchanged glances, their confusion slowly turning into understanding. Dr. Peterson, softening her tone, reassured the worried parents, ready to explain the next steps clearly. Terry and Lily leaned in, eager to understand and prepare for what lay ahead. Dr. Peterson explained the rare genetic anomaly found in their daughter's DNA with potential serious medical implications. "Your daughter has a unique genetic condition," she said gently. "This could lead to certain health challenges as she grows." Terry and Lily listened intently, their hearts heavy with concern. "It's important we monitor her closely," Dr. Peterson continued, "to address any issues early on." She assured Terry and Lily that further testing was necessary to anticipate and manage any health concerns. "We need to do more tests to fully understand her condition," Dr. Peterson explained. "This will help us create a plan to keep her as healthy as possible." Lily nodded, trying to absorb the information. Terry held her hand, both of them feeling the weight of the responsibility ahead. Overwhelmed by the news, Terry and Lily held each other, tears streaming down their faces. "We'll get through this together," Terry whispered, his voice choked with emotion. Lily sobbed softly, clinging to him. The reality of their daughter's condition was sinking in, bringing a flood of emotions. They found strength in each other, united by their love for their daughter. Dr. Peterson informed them their daughter might have special needs, but was otherwise healthy. "She may need extra support," she said, "but she's a strong, resilient baby." Terry and Lily felt a glimmer of hope. "We'll do whatever it takes," Terry said firmly. Dr. Peterson smiled. "With your love and care, She has a bright future ahead. Apologizing for his doubts, Terry reconciled with Lily, and they committed to loving and caring for their daughter. "I'm so sorry for everything," Terry said, tears in his eyes. Lily hugged him tightly. "We'll get through this," she whispered. They both knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, their love for their daughter would guide them through.